Hello everyone, so I wanted to do an updated TBR fiction bookshelf tour. I've made a ton of changes to this bookshelf over the last couple weeks. I finally got the books under the control that I wanted to be under, and also my husband created this beautiful, I'm not even sure what this is called, but it's like a magical wooden bookshelf edition. It's so beautiful. I got this for Christmas from my friend, and then my husband built it for me, and it's just absolutely incredible, and it kind of looks like it goes on forever. So I had to move some books aside to fit it in, so that's why the Stephen King books are up there, but I'm just so excited. So let me get started. My TBR bookshelves include books I've read and need to reread, and also new books. So starting here, I have the annotated Flatland. I have read Flatland before, and I found the annotated version, so I replaced it. And this is a kind of a math fiction book, so I'm really excited to read the annotated book because it is a complicated book, and the annotations I think will really help. I also have Call Me By Your Name, which I have read before and I did not like, but I also listened to it on audio. So I'm really hoping that when I read the physical book, I will love it as much as everyone else who loves this book. I will feel the same emotions reading the actual words and really focusing on it. I think that's the appeal of that book. I also have two Dirk Gently books. I have the original Dirk Gently and the Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul. I have not read these two books, but I did see the show and we really enjoyed it. And I did read the unfinished last book, and it was weird. I ended up getting rid of it, but I am looking forward to reading the first two. And I have The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've read all these books multiple times, and the first time I read them I was in high school, and I really, really enjoyed them. And then I reread them all a couple of years ago, and I didn't really like them very much. I did recently start reading this one again with my son. It's maybe a little too advanced for him. He hasn't been asking to read it, but I'm really liking it. So I'm looking forward to just going through and reading all the books again and seeing where I'm at. The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. I did read this book a few years ago, and I liked it a lot. It actually made me cry, but I know there's been a lot of controversy with this author, Sherman Alexie, in the news. So I just want to read this again. And also the first time I read it was on audio, and I do want to go through and read it because there are a lot of drawings which I didn't experience with the audiobook. So I wanted to get that experience. Actually, you know what? I think I'm not going to be able to put this one back. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, and then I have my Foundation series. I have read books. So I haven't read Prelude to the Foundation yet. I have read Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation, and I really liked Foundation. I've read it at least 3 times now, and I've read the other 2 books once each, and they were okay. But now that I have the full series, I do want to go through and read the whole thing at some point, all the way through. And then I have Case Histories by Kate Atkinson. I don't really know anything about this book, so I'm not too sure what I'm in for that. This is The Year of the Flood by Margaret Atwood. I have not read that yet, but I did love The Handmaid's Tale. And then I have Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, and I have not read that. And then I have some Frederick Backman books. I have read Anxious People and A Man Called Uva. And I really, really liked A Man Called Uva. I did not like Anxious People. So that will be a reread for me, and hopefully I'll like it the second time. And I started Beartown, and that was a DNF for me. So I'm going to give that one another shot because a lot of people say really good things about it. I have, missed this one, James Baldwin's Tell It to the Mountain. And I don't know anything about it, but I know it's amazing. Has a really great reputation, so I'm looking forward to that. I have Tulip Fever by Andre Burnett. Don't know anything about it. I have Saul Bellows' The Adventures of Augie March. Now this book, I'm actually supposed to read it right now because it's part of a book challenge I'm doing where I'm reading all the books I bought in January and February of last year. So I will start that one really, really soon. Captain Corelli's Mandolin. I love the movie with Nicolas Cage when I was very young. I think I was a teenager. So I'm looking forward to finally reading that book. I got Olive Blake's Alone with You in the Ether for my birthday, and I have not started it yet. but I don't know anything about it, but I know it's been recommended by a lot of YouTubers. This is a book that got from the publisher last year. I did read it, and I did like it a lot. It's very poetic, but it was also very, very gross. It was about a man who ate children, which is kind of disgusting and horrible. But the book was so beautifully written, so I can't say I don't know if I like it. So I'm looking forward to rereading The Glutton. I have Archangel. This is another book I got from the publisher, and I read a bunch of it. I read like maybe the first couple chapters, and I really liked it, but I just haven't been picking it up. But I want to read it. It's science fiction in the future, and it's like a murder detective story. So I'm looking forward to that. I have a couple Ray Bradbury books that got back on the shelf. The Martian Chronicles I read a long time ago. I want to say like 2018 or 2019, and I loved it. So I'm looking forward to rereading it. And then I read Something Wicked This Way Comes, which I didn't like very much, but since reading it, I've talked to a lot of people who absolutely love it. And so, sorry, my voice is starting to go. And so I'm looking forward to rereading that with a different eye and kind of like slowing down, really focusing on it. I have Horse by Geraldine Brooks, which I don't know anything about, other than it's probably about a horse. World War Z, I did read this one, and I loved World War Z. I have Octavia Butler's Kindred, which I've heard amazing things about, and also her Parable of the Sower. So I'm looking forward to discovering this author. And then The Girl with All the Gifts. My husband did read this one, and he said amazing things about it. So that's another one I'm looking forward to. Then moving on here, I have John le Carré's The Russian House and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I'm currently reading his The Spy Who Came In From the Cold as part of my reading challenge. Because I bought it in February of 2023, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So I like his style. It's very fun. I have the annotated Alice in Wonderland, and this is another book I got recently, and it's I have read Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I'm looking forward to the annotated version to get some more insight. I have Shy Creatures, which has not come out yet. This is an ARC, and I got to get on it. So that's a book I agreed to read. I have 2010 by Arthur C. Clarke, which I have read, and I didn't love it. I love 2001, but I did not love 2010. So that's a reread for me. Looking forward to that. Another book that is just so beloved is Parnassus. And did I say that right? Parnassus. And I just didn't like it that much. So this is definitely a reread for me, and hopefully I'll like it the second time around. I have a couple Chekhov stories. This one is on my reading challenge because it was bought early last year. So I'll pick that up momentarily. And then I have not read The Russian Masters or The Shooting Party. This book I actually found in my mother's house at the beginning of the year. So that's been in my family for years, and I've never read it. I have The House on Mango Street, which I did read, and I'm looking forward to rereading because I did really like it the first time I read it. And then, of course, after watching Arrival, I had to get the book and the other book, Exhalation, by Ted Chiang, but I have not been able to get into them yet. I think I've tried Arrival several times, but I couldn't get into it. I have Half a Yellow Sun by, I cannot pronounce his name. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name. Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. I did read this a couple years ago, and I really, really liked it, so I'm looking forward to jumping into it again. This is a beautiful, massive book of Pinocchio. I read Pinocchio when I was in high school, and I loved it, so I'm really looking forward to reading this book again. I have The Complete Stories by Flannery O'Connor, which I have not read, but I've heard amazing things. Actually, did this win the Pulitzer Prize? I have a different place for Pulitzer Prize winners. I gotta look into that. Okay, so I got Leviathan Wakes. I have not read it, but I heard good things. Dark Matter I have read, and it's time to reread. I really like Dark Matter a lot. I thought that was really creepy and scary. I also read Recursion, which I loved the first time I read it, and I did not like it the second time, so I ended up unhauling it last year. And then I read his newest book, Upgrade, and I didn't like it at all. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. But I am looking forward to rereading Dark Matter to see how I feel about this author at this point in my life. I have Flesh and Blood by Michael Cunningham. I have read Other books by him, I read The Home at the End of the World, and I read The Hours, which I loved both books very, very much. So I'm looking forward to Flesh and Blood. But this book has been on my shelf for a very long time, so I do need to just get into that. House of Leaves by Mark Daniel Levsky, I've heard amazing things about, but I've also heard it's a very difficult book to read, so it's a bit daunting. I have The White Noise, which I got fairly recently. That looks like a fun book. The Red Tent, I got this from a free book library. Have not read it yet, but I know it's beloved, beloved by people. Herman Diaz's In the Distance. This is the author of Trust, which I absolutely loved, so I need to read this one. Man in the High Castle. I read about half this book last year, and it was weird. I read his other books. I read Ubik, and I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and I really loved both those books. This one was very weird, and I was having a really hard time getting into it, so hopefully I can pick that one back up and finish it. Christmas Carol I read a couple years ago, and I didn't get much out of it. I think I just kind of skimmed through it. I'm not very big on Charles Dickens. I'm not really used to his writing style, so I'm looking forward to just picking this one up again and really focusing. This is a book on Dostoevsky, and I just stuck it with some of the other Dostoevsky books, and that's something I found at a thrift store called The Author as Psychoanalyst, and this is by a professor, I think a local professor. That's why the book ended up at the thrift store, so it's kind of interesting. So I just stuck it with the Dostoevskys, which I have The Gambler, Babok, and A Nasty Story, and then I have another version of The Gambler. I don't know which one I want to keep. And then I have Notes from the Underground, which I did read, and I did not understand at all. So I ended up getting the Cliff Notes, so next time when I reread it, I'll have the Cliff Notes, because I really do want to get into Dostoevsky. Again, that's another author I don't have the brain for yet. The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. This book I got from a friend for Christmas, and I have not read it because it's just so big, but I'll get to it. And then I have these two books, Dancing in the Dark by Andre Dubus, and I also have The House of Sand and Fog, and this is by Andre Dubus III, so I'm not actually sure if that's the same author or whether they're related, but I have not read either of them. And then I have The Count of Monte Cristo, which I've read some of. I think I read a third or a quarter. I really enjoyed it, but it's such a big book, and I think at some point I just lost track of it, so I did really enjoy what I read. It was really, really good. And then here I have The Brothers K, which I don't know anything about other than it's probably has something to do with The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. I'm guessing, but I heard it's really good. I have Jennifer Egan's The Manhattan Beach, which I started and I really liked, so I'm looking forward to getting back into that. The Mill and the Floss by George Eliot. Don't know anything about, but I've heard good things. And then a bunch of Lewis Eldridge books. I have Love Medicine and The Brown House and The Antelope Wife, which I think they republished this book. They redid it into a different version with a new name. So I don't know. I have not read anything by this author yet. I did start one of her books. I can't recall what it is at this moment. I did really like it, so I think I'm going to really like this author when I get into her. I did start reading White Oleander. I read the first chapter and I loved it, so I do just need to pick this book up again and read it. I have F. Scott Fitzgerald's This Side of Paradise. This is the last book that I have left by this author. I don't know. I haven't been able to get into it. I did love most of his other work. I have Gone Girl. I read Sharp Objects and I loved it, so hopefully I'll love Gone Girl as much. And then this is another big, thick book, The Pillars of the Earth, by Ken Follett, which I have not read, but I've heard really, really good reviews about this book. Freedom by Jonathan Franz, and also Crossroads. The only other book I read was Corrections, which I loved. I loved Corrections, so hopefully I love these books too. And then Sophie's World. I've had this one a long time. I gotta get into this one. It's like a philosophy fiction, so that looks cool. And of course Outlander, which I'm scared to pick up because it's so big. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I have a bad feeling I'm not gonna like it. It has really mixed reviews. Some Neil Gaiman books. I loved both these books so much, and I was so excited to put these back. Good Omens and Norse Mythology. I was so excited to put these back on my TBR list to reread again. because they were just amazing. So it's just been so long since I've read them. And then Neuromancer by William Gibson. Looking forward to that one. I heard it's amazing. Elizabeth Gilbert's A Signature of All Things. I have not read yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I put this back on my shelf. This is How You Lose the Time War. I read it, I want to say late last year, and I didn't enjoy it very much. So, but I've heard that it needs another chance, so it's back on the TBR. Poor Things, I have tried reading. I was mixed on the movie. I didn't love the movie, but I also liked a lot of parts of the movie. That's why I wanted to give the book a shot. So that's why I have it, but I have not been able to get into it yet. Turtles All the Way Down, I read a couple years ago, and I really like this book a lot. So I'm looking forward to rereading it. And then I have 2 Graham Greene books, The Quiet American and The Power and the Glory. Haven't read them, have never read anything by this author, so we'll see. The Magician Trilogy. I read The Magicians, and I really, really liked it. I thought that was a really cool, creative book. And then I tried reading The Magician's Land, and I just didn't understand what was going on at all. So I think maybe you need to go back and reread The Magicians, and then try The Magician's Land again, because I do really want to like this series, and I really like the show. The Midnight Library I really enjoyed, so I'm looking forward to rereading that. Starship Troopers. My husband loves this book, so I'm looking forward to it. Even though I didn't like his other book, Stranger in a Strange Land. It was kind of horrible, so we'll see. Catch as Catch Can. This is a collection of short stories by Joseph Heller. I have not been very good at picking it up at all. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. I read this one at a dark time in my life when I was really depressed, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I was just in tears. And so I'm wondering if I'm going to love it again as much as I did then. And I also have High Fidelity, which I know I read many years ago, maybe in high school. So I'm looking forward to that book by Nick Hornby. Sorry, it's a little jammed in there. Here we have Victor Hugo's Notre Dame de Paris, which I think is just The Hunchback of Notre Dame with a different title. Haven't read it yet, but looking forward to it. Eyeless in Gaza by Aldous Huxley and The Island. Have not read these 2 books, but I did just finish his Brave New World Revisited yesterday, and it was great. So I think it's time to pick up another Aldous Huxley book. I don't think I've ever read a book by him that I didn't love. That was fiction. I have a bunch of John Irving, and I don't know why Prayer for Owen Meany is back on the shelf. I'm reading this one right now. I must have put it back at some point. But I have Son of the Circus, The Cider House Rules, and A Prayer for Owen Meany, which I'm currently in the process of reading, which it's interesting. I've read his World According to Garp, which I loved, but we'll see about these ones. And then The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Other Writings by Washington Irving. That looks interesting. Bunch of Henry James books. The Turn of the... Oh, I dropped my phone. Sorry. The Turn of the Screw, The Aspirin Papers, Bostonians, Wings of the Dove, Tales of Henry James, Daisy Miller. I have all these books that I have not read, and I don't know anything about Henry James except from some analysis books that I've read on him. So that's why I bought the books, because I read the analysis books and I really like them. I have Vladimir by Julia May Jones. I started this book last year, didn't get very far, so I want to pick that one back up again. Spaceman of Bohemia, I read a couple years ago. I want to say 2019. I really, really liked it. I saw the movie with Adam Sandler, and I really liked that one as well. So looking forward to reading that again. My Lily King, which I read her other book, which I think was Euphoria. Yeah, Euphoria. And I didn't love it. I ended up giving it to my mother-in-law because she's a traveler, and I thought she would enjoy that book. I mean, she likes to travel to interesting places and dangerous places. So I thought she would get a lot out of that. The writing was very beautiful, though. And then I have Stephen King's Salem Lot, The Stand, Carrie, and The Shining. I've read some Stephen King books, but I'm not a huge fan. I loved his book on writing. It was amazing. But I don't know. I do want to get into some of his books, and especially The Stand, which I heard is amazing, and The Shining. So we'll see. Barbara Kinsover, The Prodigal Summer, I have not read. Trinity. This is just a random book I got from the publisher. I did read it a couple years ago, and it was so weird. So I want to read it again. It was so weird, but kind of good weird, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I feel on reread. Admission by Jean Hanf Korelitz. I read this a couple years ago, and I really loved it. I read another book. I think it was called Plot by her, and I did not like it at all. So I ended up I ended up unhauling it, but I loved Admission, so I'm looking forward to that. This is another book I need to review. This is an advanced reading copy of Eurotrash, which is a translation from Germany. I just need to get into that. Then I have a bunch of books by Jhumpa Lampari, and I did read her collection of short stories, The Interpreter of Maladies, and I loved it so much. It was absolutely incredible. So I'm looking forward to reading these two books. And I have Lady Chatterley's Lover. I think I've started this book. It was interesting, so hopefully I'll finish it. Ancillary Justice by N. Leckie. I think it's sci-fi, so I'm looking forward to that. And then this beautiful copy of The Phantom of the Opera, which I still haven't started, but hopefully I'll love that one. Moving on, I have books by Alan Lightman. I love some of his work, not all of it. I have Good Bonito, which was okay, but I did put it on my rereads. Einstein's Dream I really liked, but it's time to reread it because it was so long ago. And this is a new one, The Diagnosis, which I just recently got. So we'll see how much I like that. And then we have the Three Body Problem series, which I did finish the Three Body Problem, and I did not like it. I did not think it was a good science fiction story. I did like the science, so I put that right back on the shelf because I didn't want to get rid of it, and I do want to reread it. And then Champion, this is book 3 in the series. I have not read Prodigy, which is book 2. I loved Legend. It was so cute. Well, I don't know about cute, but it was fun. I really liked it. So I do need to read Prodigy before I jump into Champion. Station 11, I loved so much, and I'm looking forward to rereading. Somerset Maugham's The Razor Edge and The Moon and Sixpence. I have not read yet. I did read the Human Bondage, which is incredible. And then I have a bunch of Daphne du Maurier books by Cousin Rachel, which is on my reading challenge right now, so I got to pick it up. That's why it's up there. The Frenchman's Creek and Don't Look Now, which I have not read. I've only just finished Rebecca. Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, which I don't know anything about. All the Pretty Horses I read a long time ago, and I do really remember liking it, so I'm looking forward to reading it. I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy last year, and I loved it so much. So these are actually my husband's books, and they've been on his shelf for a long time, and I recently just picked them all up and put them on my shelf because he doesn't really read physical books anymore. He's more of a Kindle person. And so I was like, well, if you're not going to read them, I might as well just read them. And then I added The Passenger, which I think is one of his more recent books recently. So just need to get into Cormac McCarthy more. Ian McEwan, I put The Nutshell back on my list to reread because it was weird, and I don't know if I'll like it again. And then The Children's Act, I have not started yet. Solar, I started, and I think I really like it. But I didn't get very far, and I put it back on the shelf. So I need to pick that up and read that. The Innocent, I don't know anything about. The Silent Patient, I read a couple years ago, and I loved it, and I actually recommended it to like everyone, and I bought a bunch of copies for people, and nobody liked it. Everyone thought it was crazy. So maybe I should reread that and see if I still love it. Maybe I was wrong. Alice Munro's Dear Life, I think I started this book. I started this book last month, and I really liked it, but I guess I'm not reading it right now. Winter in Moscow is really oddly written, but hopefully I'll get back into it. I think it's criticizing the Russian government, making fun of Russia. So that'll be interesting to see, but it's in a creative way, like a parody. Then a bunch of Haruki Murakami books. After Dark, The Sheep Chase, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. I read Kafka on the Shore by this author, and I really, really enjoyed it. Oh, and also Norwegian Wood. So I need to get into these books. And then a bunch of my George Orwell collection. Burmese Days, Coming Up for Air, Clergyman's Daughter, and Keep the Ass. I can't even read that. Aspidestra Flying. And then also the Down and Out in Paris and London. I actually think this might be nonfiction, so that might be misplaced. But yeah, I need to get into these books because I'm a big fan of 1984 and Animal Farm, and Stories of Vladimir Nabokov. This is another author I'm really struggling with. I have a bunch by him. I have Invitation to a Beheading, and then I have, what is this? Ada, Despair, Pinion, Pale Fire. Pale Fire has been difficult. Glory, I did start last week, I think, and I really liked it. So I'm going to keep going on this one. So I again, but Pale Fire, I have read half of it like 3 times already. And then I get through about half and I'm like, I can't anymore. My brain just can't take any more of this writing. It's weird because Lolita was so readable. Lolita was so enjoyable. I loved it so much, the writing. But these books, like Pale Fire, is just crazy. So if you ever read Pale Fire, I'm sure you know what I mean. It's such a weird book. The Internal Audience of One. This is a book that I just failed to read on time when I got it. Even though I have started it multiple times and it's beautifully written, I just failed to keep going. The Housekeeper and the Professor. This is like a math fiction book, and I did not love it as much as other people, so I put that back on my TBR to give it another shot. Where the Crawdads Sing. I read it so long ago. So I liked it a lot when I read it, and it's just back on my TBR shelf because it's time to reread it again. I don't like to keep my books on the red shelf for too long because then they get stale. So I always keep them circulating. Chuck Palahniuk. These are two books that I haven't read by him, Haunted and Invisible Monsters. I love his work. So I loved Fight Club. I loved Choke. I'm not sure what else have I read by him. Everything I read by him I loved. So these are John Dies at the End. I still have not started I think I started this one, but I didn't get very far. And then these are the third and fourth. So I love this author. I love his series. Looking forward to this crazy series. Dorothy Parker, Complete Stories. I have not read. Don't know anything about Dorothy Parker. This is a weird book. I think we've had this book when I was a kid for so many years. I never picked it up. And then last time I was at my mom's house, I grabbed it and took it home. I know it's really well rated. So that's one I just need to read at some point. Poe Bronson's The First 20 Million is Always the Hardest. I read this many years ago, and I think I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'm going to like it again. Kind of outdated technology, but it's about a startup. So I think I started it, and I didn't get very far. It was a little weird. So we'll see. Bunch of my Terry Pratchett. I love Terry Pratchett. I did read The Color of Magic. It's time to reread The Color of Magic because I didn't like it at all. And then I got the second one, The Light Fantastic, and then I just jumped to book 3 of the Night Watch series, Feet of Clay, which I did start. I really like. And then The Fifth Elephant and Thud. So need to keep going through those books. So The Golden Compass I read, I want to say last year or the year before, and I didn't like it at all. So I put it back to reread, and I also got the graphic novel to read with, or maybe in addition to see if I can spark my love of this book. This is an ARC I got, and I read it last year, and I loved it. I think I loved it. It's one of those I think I loved it books. It's science fiction, an AI startup kind of book, and it's just time to reread it, I think, because I'm not sure if I liked it or not. Marilyn Robinson's Home. I have not read yet. Philip Roth's The Plot Against America. I did finish Patrimony last month, and I really enjoyed it, so looking forward to that one. Mating by Norman Rush. Don't know anything about it, except I think it's a love story. That's cool. Frankenstein in Baghdad. I did start this, and I did like it. I just stopped picking it up. J.D. Salinger's Raise High the Roof Beams and Carpenters. Did I read that? Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and Seymour. I think this is the last book I have that I have not read by him, so I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of a continuation of some of the other stories that I've read in 10 Short Stories and Franny and Zooey, so looking forward to that. Persuasion Nation, George Saunders, 2 books I've not read by him. I'm such a big fan of his, so looking forward to those. Darker Shade of Magic, really want to get into this. Everybody loves this book, I think. 13th Tale, same thing. Don't know anything about it, but I think everybody loves this. And then we need to talk about Kevin. I've been putting off reading this book for so long because I'm so scared of the topic, but I heard the writing is great, so that'll be fun. Then I have NW by Zadie Smith. I have not read that one yet. The Light Between the Oceans, I've tried reading this one. I think I tried it on audio, and I could not understand the narrator's accent. So I do need to just make a point of reading the physical copy, because I did like it. I liked the first couple chapters a lot. The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I did read her other books, The Secret History and The Goldfinch, and I love them. I did read the first chapter of A Little Friend, and I really liked the first chapter, but it was a bit traumatic, so I did not keep going, but I will pick it up and read it at some point. We Are Legion in the Bobverse. I have read the first book and it was great, but very technical and complicated and science, math oriented. So I do want to finish the series at some point. And then I have my Tolkien series back on the shelf. I loved The Hobbit when I was little so much. I read it again, but I did not love it recently. I read The Fellowship of the Rings a few years ago, and I really did like it a lot. And then I got through about half of The Two Towers, and I kind of gave up there. So that's one and then I also got myself multiple Spark Notes and Cliff Notes because I have such a hard time following the plot of this story. It's so atmospheric, and there's so much walking, and there's so much to look at, and there's so little character development, and the characters are so bland. Sorry, my voice is just going. So, yeah, I really want to be a Tolkien reader, but I'm not there yet. I have The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Tolstoy. Really liked this one when I read it, so put the quick little book back on the shelf. Gentleman in Moscow. This is back on my shelf because it's just time. It's been so long. I did love this book very much. The Pallbearers Club. I read it last year. This was an arc, and I really liked it, and I'm ready to reread that one again because I think it's time. The Sportsman's Notebook by Ivan Turgenev. That's one I got for my birthday recently, so I'm really looking forward to that. I have not read anything by that author, though. And then I have Rabbit Run and Rabbit Redux by John Updike. I have not tried this author yet. Jeff Vandermeer's Dead Astronauts. I read his Annihilation, the first Annihilation, is that what it's called, book? And it was okay, but this one was really pretty, so I grabbed it. I don't know. I don't think it's really well rated, so I have a feeling I'm not going to like that. And then a bunch of books by Kurt Vonnegut. Welcome to the Monkey House, Breakfast of Champions, Cat's Cradle, Sirens of the Titan. I just have not got into them, but I'm sure I will love those books. And then a bunch of David Foster Wallace. I have Consider the Lobster, Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, and Infinite Jest. This is on my reading challenge right now, so I really got it started. I am so intimidated because I heard it's such a difficult book. So that's another author I aspire to read. I have Sing Unburied Sing, which I have not read yet, and The Shadow of the Wind, a bunch of Virginia Woolf, The Waves, Mrs. Dalloway I have read. I don't think I understood very well, so it's time to read with the Cliff Notes, and The Night and Day, which I don't know anything about, and then P.G. Wodehouse. I don't know if I'm going to like these books. I don't know if this is my type of humor. I think I started very good, Jeeves, didn't really get it. Hopefully I'll like it. And then The Devil Wears Prada, I did read a couple years ago and I really liked it, so it's time to reread. And a bunch of Evelyn Waugh. I have Vile Bodies, The End of the Battle, and Men at Arms. I did try so hard to read her Brideshead Revisited. I'm sorry, his Brideshead Revisited, and I just could not get into it. I really want to read that book, but I could not get into it. And then I loved Scoop. So I don't know, hopefully these books will be more like Scoop and less like Brideshead Revisited. So I'm going to show you my other weird stacks. So this is my Nobel Prize section. These are all the authors who have won Nobel Prizes. So I have Hermann Hesse, Steppenwolf. I have all of my William Faulkner here. I have 2 books on analysis. The Hamlet, which I've not read. Go Down Moses, I have not read. Collected Stories, I have not read. Light in August, I have not read. If I Forget the Jerusalem, I want to say, I don't think I read that one. But I did read As I Lay Dying, so I'm looking forward to rereading that. And I feel like I have more, but maybe I put them somewhere else. I don't remember. The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus, I have not read. The Plague, I got through half before I gave up. So I need to read that one again. Orphan Pamuk, A Stranger in My Mind, and My Name is Red. I have not read those 2 books. I did read Snow last year and loved it. I have Doris Lessing's The Cleft, and J.M. Coetzee books, Disgrace, which I did start. I read the first chapter and I really liked it. Waiting for the Barbarians, Age of Iron. I'm still trying to get through Master of Petersburg. It is, I don't know, I don't like it at all, but I want to keep at it. And then my beautiful Toni Morrison books. What is this? Paradise, Bluest Eye, Mercy, and Song of Solomon. I know I will love these when I get into them. Buried Giant by Ishiguro, which I have tried reading it, but I thought it was kind of annoying, so I didn't get very far. Plus, I didn't think the story was that interesting. Jose Saramago, I read Blindness, and I loved it, so this is Seeing, which I think is the sequel. A House for Mr. Biswas, I did not read yet, but I heard it's amazing. Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis. Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. This is my John Steinbeck companion, and some John Steinbeck books here. Tortilla Flat, The Log from the Sea of Cortez, and Cannery Row. If any of these are nonfiction, I guess I will find out when I start reading the book. And then a couple Gabriel Garcia Marquez books. I have Living to Tell the Tale and The General and His Labyrinth, which I've not read. And then this is Leaf Storm, which I did read. I think I read it last year, and I didn't love it. And then I have some spark notes on short stories, women's literature, and regular literature, just to help me, because literature can be hard sometimes. Now, this is my Pulitzer Prize section. So these are all the books that I have that won the Pulitzer Prize or were nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. So The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, The Bridge of San Luis Rey, Gone with the Wind, All the King's Men. I did read Gone with the Wind when I was in high school. I want to say elementary school or middle school. I think I was in 6th grade. I really loved it. So I'm looking forward to rereading that. I have not read All the King's Men yet. I did read The Old Man and the Sea, which I did not like. I thought it was not my style. Oh, that's why. Okay, some of my Faulkner's books are here. So this is the Reviers, which I have not read yet. The Stories of John Cheever. The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. I did read this one. It was odd. It was a little disturbing, so I put that back to reread. Less, I did not like. I read it a couple years ago, got rid of it, I unhauled it, and then I bought it again because I just wanted to give it another shot because it kind of stayed with me. There were a lot of good parts to it. I really liked the ending, so I think I wanted to give it another shot. And then I don't know why this. Oh, I separated these two books, the Rabbit books by a Marilyn Robinson book, but I've not read any of these. A Good Scent from a Strange Mountain, I have not read. The Stone Diaries, I have not read. Independence Day, I think I started this. It was good. I liked it. American Pastoral, I did not read. Poisonwood Bible, no. The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, I did read this and I loved it so much. So I'm excited to reread that one. Richard Russo's Empire Falls, I think I started this one and I had such a hard time with this book. So we'll see. And then same thing with Middlesex. I started it and I liked it. I really liked it, but I didn't get very far. Guild, I read about half of this book 2 years ago and I almost unhauled it. And then I realized it was just such an influential book and I just needed to keep going. So I did not end up unhauling it. March by Geraldine Brooks, I have not read. The Plague of Doves. Okay, this is the Lewis Eldridge book that I started and I really liked it. I really liked the art, the writing. So I'm looking forward to jumping back into that. Another David Foster Wallace book, The Pale King. I've not read it. Orphan Master's Son, I'm looking forward to this one. The Overstory, I have a feeling I'm not going to like this one. I read his other book, Bewilderment, last year or 2 years ago and I did not like it at all. So that's Richard Powers. So I don't know. We'll see about this one. All the Light We Cannot See, I read this a couple years ago and I didn't like it, but I ended up rebuying it to reread it because I think I was wrong. Tinkerers, it's such a tiny book, but I still haven't been able to read it. There, I think I got through about half of it and I was so confused and I decided to just put it back on the shelf and try again later. Another book by Lewis Eldridge, The Night Watchman, I have not read. And then Demon Copperhead, I did start. I didn't get very far. So I wanted to slow down and try that one again. And then Snow Falling on Cedars, I have not read yet. And then this is my Novel 100 collection. These are all the books listed in, it's a collection of 100 essays on these famous books. And there's quite a lot of them, so I isolated them. I have The Leopard, Crime and Punishment, The Scarlet Letter. This is the one I was struggling with, The Bride Should Revisited. I just can't seem to get into this one or care at all. So I don't know if I'm going to survive that one. Farewell to Arms, it's fairly new. Germinal, The Gold Notebook. I have tried reading The Golden Notebook. I think I got maybe a quarter or third of the way in a couple years ago, and I thought it was very good, but I didn't finish it. Absalom, I read a couple years ago and I loved it. Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations I have not read. Tess of the Dubervilles by Hardy I have not read. 100 Years of Solitude I did read and I loved it, so I'm looking forward to rereading that. The Brothers Karamazov, I got through a lot of it, not that much, but some of it, and it's back on my shelf. I do want to make an effort. Middlemarch, have not tried yet. Emma, I did read the first chapter and I really liked it, so I need to just keep going. Anna Karenina, I have tried reading this book so many times. I will read it because I know it's going to be amazing. I don't know why I'm denying myself such beautiful literary masterpiece. Portrait of the Artist and As a Young Man in Dubliners. I have not read anything by David Joyce, so I'm going to move this stack out of the way. Sound and the Fury I read and loved. Dracula I've not read. The Last Chronicle of Barset I've not read. Their Eyes Are Watching God, I've read this many times. Last time I read it, I didn't love it, so we'll see. Ulysses, have not read. War and Peace, have not read. And Don Quixote, I probably started it many times. This is just another book by Vladimir Nabokov on Russian literature, his lectures. I'm sorry, not just regular literature. So I think most of the books in this book are here on my shelf. That's why I stuck it there. Les Miserables, I read this in high school and I really liked it. Marcel Proust's Swan Way, I did get through about a third of it earlier this year, and I ended up putting it back on my shelf, and I got the graphic novel too. So that's a tough one. I want to just start it again because I do really like it. And then Sherlock Holmes, I've had this forever. It's a really pretty copy. Really liked it, but I have not read it. And this is one I just got. It's so pretty. I got an older version that was completely annotated, and then I found this one recently, so it was just so cute, so I replaced it. And then here I have my Booker Prize books. I have Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, The Lowland, A Little Life, which I know everybody loves this book, but it's so thick. But I'll get into it. Lila, The Sellout, which I hope I will like. Lincoln on the Bardo. I read this one years ago and I loved it so much. I'm really looking forward to that. Exit West, I've started and it was weird. I don't know, we'll see. Ministry of Utmost Happiness. I have read the other book by this author, The God of Small Things, and I really liked it. So I really want to read this one. Zadie Smith, Swing Time. Zadie Smith is the author of White Teeth. I really, really liked White Teeth, so I want to get more books by her. Shuggy Brain, I have not read. Kind of scared of this book for some reason, I don't know. Life of Pi's back on my shelf. And Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is the author of Parnassus, so we'll see. When We Were Orphans by Ishiguro Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. Purple Hibiscus by the authors whose name I can't pronounce. Julian Barnes, Arthur and George. I like Julian Barnes, but not this one. Okay, here's another Zadie Smith. So these books are not by author. I don't know how that happened. I think I moved them all around. This one's on Beauty, and I have Saturday by Ian McEwan. White Teeth. I read a lot of this book. I read almost half of this book, and then I ended up giving up, putting it back on my shelf. The Enchantress of Florence by Salman Rushdie, I've not read. Master of the Commander, I've not read. The Sea by Iris Murdoch. I heard such good things, but I have not read. Midnight Children, also I have not read. Flaubert's Parrot, I got through half this book and gave up, put it back on my shelf. Artist of the Floating World, I got through half of this book and put it back on my shelf. The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie, I have not read. Time's Arrow, I started, and I liked it, but I didn't read it. Fine Balance, I did not start. Blind Assassin is like, I want to read this book so bad, but I have never started it. Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead, have not read. And The Prophet Song is still in its plastic wrapper, but I did just get that for my birthday, so I don't feel too bad about it. And those are my fiction books, and then these are the books I'm currently trying to get through right now. I got The Great Divide by Christina Henriquez. I don't know if I'm going to like this one. I don't know if it's going to be keep my attention, but I did start it and I have gotten a couple chapters in, so we'll see. A Lesson Before Dying by Ernst J. Gaines. I have started this book. I read the first chapter and I really like the first chapter. So far, so good. Tomorrow, this is a reread for me, and I'm definitely liking this book a lot more the second time around. I am really enjoying this one. So, and I did not like it the first time. Another book that I'm really loving the second time around is The Big Sleep. I'm just underlining this book like crazy because I'm really enjoying it. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. I'm really liking this one as well. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm reading this one very slowly and carefully, so we will see. I want to like it. I'm also doing a lot of literary analysis with this book and trying to really understand why it's such a popular, important book in literature. There's a lot of essays that I have on this book, so I'm just kind of trying to enjoy it in an academic way, because I just kind of ran through it the first time and didn't really get the point. I'm reading The Martian by Andy Weir, which I read years ago. This is one of the first fiction books I read when I started reading books, and I'm really enjoying this book. This book is really good. And The Rosie Project I read in 2019, and I'm rereading it now, and I'm really enjoying this. And then The Master of Petersburg by J.M. Kotezi. I'm having a hard time. It's not well written. I'm not liking the story. We'll see. We'll see if I like it at the end. So anyway, that's my complete TBR, and it's organized by, this section is organized by prize, and also novel 100, and then this section is organized by alphabet. So, and then again, my beautiful, beautiful book box. Thank you for watching.